ideas are converted into patent, and then once the patent is filed, what happens with patent application till the time it is granted and thereafter. And further, as you all are the inventors, what you should look into the subject matter which you are researching on, to work on invention disclosure, which should be used by a patent attorney to work out the patent application, to draft the patent application. I will also give a couple of examples of invention disclosures coming from our previous clients who have prepared the invention disclosure, based on which we have prepared the patent specifications. In between, if you want to have any question, maybe after each of the part, for a couple of minutes we can discuss over, and remaining questions I can take at the end of the session. So I will start with basics on patents. So first thing which comes to our mind is why we should file patent. So primarily when we look towards the market, it's always to create a barrier for the competition, because you want to have some kind of a monopoly for you by creating a barrier, so that somebody should not copy your USP, and they in furtherance should not start entering your technical field, should not start entering your business field if you have filed the patent. Of course, it protects against copying, because if anybody copies your invention or your subject matter, you can take them to the court after grant of the patent application. So many times your competitors pounce upon you through various business strategies. Sometimes they put up a patent infringement suit against you. You can counter attack them through your patents. Maybe if you are infringing their patent, they may also be infringing your patent. So if you have a strong portfolio, you can always counter attack them. You can scare them off. Definitely, it generates the licensing income. So whenever your patent is there, you can take it to specifically you as a university. You can always take your granted patents to any of the industry and license them out on a revenue basis. You can also have a joint venture, joint R&D activities with them, where out of the R&D activity, both of you can hold the patent, but definitely you are licensing it out to the industry, and you can get a royalty income or licensing income from that. Another is cross licensing. It's basically more useful for the businesses where somebody has one particular portfolio, other person has another portfolio. They cross license it for mutual benefit, so that they can make products of the technology of other company also. So it will be a mutual beneficial thing for them. Sometimes again for businesses, it could be useful to force workarounds. That means somebody who wants to achieve a same advantage which you are trying to solve as a problem, they can't directly copy you, because if they will be copying you, they will be infringing your patent rights. So what they have an option is they have to do a lot of experimentation to find an alternate way out, so that they can work around your patent application, which also means a lot of R&D efforts, a lot of money will go in investment to come to the similar solution. Definitely for you, it will be a matter of reputation. If you file the patents, you will be called more innovative. If you got a grant, then it's kind of ascertained by the patent office. No, definitely it's new, it's innovative. So these are some reasons why you will go for a patent. In layman's perspective, what is patent? Let me tell you, it provides a monopoly to a business, whatever business you create. It gives a protection for your business or idea, which you conceptualize and instrumentalize, prototype. So it gives a protection to that. It stops anyone to use your idea. So somebody can't directly take your idea and use it for selling it or making something new. Nobody can do without anything like that without your permission. It gives a so it is given only for technical upgradation. So any kind of business methods, any kind of simple research where we are not focusing on a technical upgradation. Rather, it's just we are providing some research results. For those, the patents would not be granted. So there has to be a technical upgradation to a process or a product or a device or a system or a method. Something like that should be there where the technical upgradation should lie. It is geographical. That means if you are filing only in India, you get a protection in India. If you file in US, you get a protection in US. So every country has their own laws, and you have to file in each of the countries for having protection in multiple jurisdictions. And it is given only for 20 years. So that means from the date of the filing, your 20-year period starts, and like it will be a public domain after 20 years. So the life of the patent is for 20 years. Now let's come to the legal definition. So according to legal definition, first thing which is important is the right is given by a government authority of that specific country. So for India, it is Indian Patent Office, and it is a negative right. So it is a negative right which is given to you to stop anybody else from using, selling, manufacturing, transiting, practicing a product or a process for which the patent is granted. So it is in the previous slide I have told you that it gives a monopoly, but actually that was a layman's perspective. It doesn't give exactly a monopoly, rather it gives you a right to stop. So it's not a right to make something, but it's a right to stop somebody else to practice your patent. And as I've already told you, like this is granted only from for 20 years, and it is granted from the date of filing of the patent application. And your rights can be only enforced against any of the prospective infringer, etc., once the patent is granted. So that also means, again, I want to mention that the rights, so the validity is for 20 years from the date of filing and not from the date of grant. So it starts from the date of filing. If you get a grant 5 years later, then you have effective rights for 15 years. So it's always good to get a grant faster if possible, if from the patent office. So what are the criteria for which the patent is granted? So when patent is being granted, it is examined on certain criteria. Primary criteria are whether it is new or not, whether it is inventive or not, whether there is a industrial utility of the subject matter you have filed as a patent or not. So when we talk about novelty, so novelty is about that the subject matter which you are filing, it should be new at the date of the filing. So that means you can't publish research paper before the filing of the patent application. So if you target that you want to file for also the research publication, you have to file the patent application first, and thereafter you can move ahead and file the you can move ahead and go for a research publication. So when I say it should be new, it should be new with respect to anything existing, not just in India, but around the world. What can be the subject matter which can be of concern? It could be any published document, even a prior use of by anything. Sometimes few things are not documented, but through the public knowledge, it is known that it has been done in such a way, but there is no document. That can also be considered as a prior art. Any oral disclosure, like I'm talking to you, I have not documented anything, I have disclosed something to you before the date of the filing, that may also be considered as a prior art, private art subject matter. But again, here when I'm saying oral disclosure, it's not discussion between 2 people or 3 people, because the discussion in such a way, it would be confidential most of the cases. But I am saying about the public disclosure. When you are doing a oral disclosure, I'm giving a seminar in the public, that all can be considered as a prior art, or any other existing knowledge can be a subject matter of prior art. So let's talk about inventive step, which was the second criteria. So what the law says that the subject matter which you have filed for the patent should not be obvious, or it should be non-obvious to a person skilled in the art. So person skilled is in the art is a hypothetical person which has been created by the law, and it keeps on changing invention to invention. So it is kind of a person created by arguments. So generally, the subject matter of inventive step, when you are examining with respect to inventive step, it's highly subjective. In novelty, you can do one-to-one matching between the claim elements and the existing document or the prior art, and you can say that like whether it is novel or not. But for inventive step, it's the subject matter of argumentation. It's highly subjective and highly debated. So first debate is about who was the person skilled in the art. Again, I have told you, like, because person skilled in the art is kind of a argumentative, hypothetical person created by the either the applicant or the attorney who is representing you, or by the patent office who would be arguing against us. So it's a first point of debate: who is the person skilled in the art. Second point of debate is whether your invention was obvious to that hypothetical person skilled in the art or not at the time of the filing. So that's how the debate goes in, and generally how in practice it happens. When we talk about India and US, they can combine more than two documents also together. So they identify two or three prior arts which are not directly hitting, so they can't be novelty hitting, but some elements are present in each of them, each of these prior arts. So the patent office will move ahead and try to combine two or three documents and sometimes more to mention that your subject matter may not be new, because two or three documents can be combined together to consider it for for obviousness. So that means they will say that it may have been obvious to the person skilled in the art. So that is how in India and US happens, but in European Patent Office, generally they mosaic two documents only. Their reason is if more than two documents have to be combined, the level of inventive step increases, and there is lesser chances that the subject matter may not be new if somebody has to combine three documents or four documents together. So generally they carry the phenomena that only two documents has to be combined, but in India and US, more than two documents can also be combined. Generally, how the applicant argues is generally our first criteria. When I argue, I may always say that even though we combine two documents, even we are not able to achieve all the elements of the invention. So what happens when the examiner is examining the application, they may misread some of the elements and try to map it onto one of the aspects of the prior art. So we point out those things that they have made an error, and accordingly, even after combining these two documents or three documents, it will not move to the whole solution which has been provided in the claims. And then another arguments we make is that two documents cannot be combined together because they are technically from two different fields. One could be from automobiles and one could be from maybe building materials. So those are two different fields. They cannot be combined together, or the two documents solve completely different problems. So we kind of argue in that fashion. So they had to mention that no, this is something not obvious. You can't reach to the solution, and that's the reason the inventive step argument or objections is not applicable on our patent. So that is the second criteria. Third criteria, generally industrial applicability. Most of the processes, products uh, apply like it applies to. So hardly industrial applicability kind of objection generally is not received. If you are filing something, a pure algorithm without application or anything like that, then it may become a subject matter of industrial applicability objection. But if something has a utility, generally industrial applicability objection would not come. So that's why I'm not covering it in detail. So let's take some example of prior arts. I'm taking very old subject matter here, old application, European application, other a British application. It was also filed in one of the Nordic countries, Norway, etc. So the claim one of this application is focusing on a sunken vessel or stranded vessel which is beneath water. Okay, when the ship is sunken below, you have to make it rise because you have to recover many things from there. It will also pollute the environment of the sea, so you want to bring it out. So a methodology is given how to bring that ship up when it is sunken. So they mentioned the first step is you push the buoyant bodies to the interior of that ship. How you will do it? You will do through the stream of the water. You will take up water, put the bodies in it, and then put that bodies along with water to the inside of the ship. And when the point bodies are sufficiently reached to the inside of the ship will rise because of the buoyancy. So that's how the whole claim was. And in Great Britain, it was awarded the patent. But what happened in Norway? The examiner has come up with a old book. So it was a 1964 application, and this comic strip was published in 1949. In this, what has happened? Like they have, there was a similar sunken ship, and Donald Duck is shown that there is a ejector which is to put inside the ship, and from the top, three nephews of Donald Duck are pushing balls, ping pong balls inside it. So they are not using water. Okay, they are just trying to thrust the balls. So of course it's not easy, but you have an idea, like once these small balls moves in, and they will give a buoyancy force and the ship will rise. So that was considered a prior art in Norway, and the Nordic patent for the same family was rejected. So the office considered that with respect to this prior art, we don't see a possible we don't see a possibility that somebody would not have thought about a problem, because just shoveling out the ball inside the ejector is not easy. You would require some medium to take the ball inside, and water is something which is easily available medium in the sea. So through that, the ball can easily be pushed to the inside of the sunken ship. So it was considered as a prior art, and it was not granted. But again, like whether it is obvious or non-obvious, it's a subject matter of argumentation. And probably if the applicant would have tried to argue that it's not something obvious, like a water should be used, and as something as a medium to take the ping pong balls, probably they could have argued it, but I think so they have not preferred to argue it, and that's why the Nordic patent was not allowed, but Great Britain patent was allowed. So this is one good example of prior art which I wanted to share with you. So another concept which is important is, many people ask me, are improvements patentable? So I will again illustrate with you to you with an example. So let's consider around 120 years ago, when the bulb was first invented. Somebody can move ahead and mention that bulb with a metal filament we want to get a patent for, and probably they would have got a patent already over it. So, but there are many kinds of metals, and which one is the most useful one is something which was not disclosed in invention A. Then what happens? Many years, inventor B kept on inventing, trying out which metal works best. So he identified that tungsten is the best one, which gives longevity to the filament. It gives better illumination. So he filed for another patent application, and he also got the patent. So now always it comes as a question, can invention be also a patent, because metal filament was known. So generally what office says that it was taken a lot of time to experiment which metal works best. So a lot of undue experimentation had to be done. If there would be a subject matter, like if out of like if there are X number of metals and 50% of the metal works good, for the filament purpose, then probably the inventive step would be lower. But there are only few which works best for the purpose of bulk filament. That becomes a subject matter of undue experimentation. A person has to do work hard and identify that which metal works best. Because of that undue experimentation, he should be given rights to that patent. So definitely, invention B should also be granted a patent, because it do a proper improvement with proper experimentation, and there is an inventive step involved. Now the question comes up, when patent A is granted, the patent on metal filament, patent B was granted for tungsten filament. Now the question comes up whether B can make the bulb with the tungsten filament, or A can also make the bulb with the tungsten filament. So it becomes a tricky question here. But when you think, again, I will take you back to few slides ago when I talked about, like, patents are the negative rights which are given by the government. So it is the right which is given to stop somebody to practice something which you have got a patent for. So B got a patent for tungsten filament. Okay, so he can go to A and say that, no boss, you can't make tungsten filament bulb because I already have a patent for it. I stop you from using my patent in your product. Now what happens is, A got a patent for metal filament. He can also go to B saying that, CB, tungsten is one of the metal and you can't make a bulb with a metal filament. So I stop you from making a bulb with a metal filament, whether it is tungsten or anything else, doesn't matter. So like it becomes a situation where nobody can practice a bulb with a tungsten filament. So I again take you back to the first slide where I have talked about cross licensing, where you license each of the portfolios to other parties so that both of you can practice it. Otherwise, nobody can practice anything. So these kind of things becomes very, very important while you are making strategy when you are into business. And many times you do patent filing, even you have no patent with respect to a base technology, you file for improvement so that you can get a licensing potential. You can have a licensing currency. So many times we call it as a licensing currency. You got a licensing currency, you can use your patent as a currency to ask for a license with respect to the base technology, because yours is the improved one, and definitely A cannot also make a bulb with a tungsten filament, which is the best. So that's how the whole thing works in patent world. So before starting idea to patent journey, do anybody have any question? I will be happy to answer.
If anyone having some question, then please ask. I think it's okay, Gaurav sir.
Okay, sure. So let's start with part two. Part two is about how ideation is done for the patent, like to start the patent journey. So there are various sources of ideation. So few of them may not be relevant to you because you are under a different organization, which is mostly a educational and research organization. So some of them are not relevant for you, but I am giving some general one. So one is customer feedback. Always it becomes important because you have a feedback from like you can have a feedback from customer. Okay. Second is the sales team and the sales channels also provide various input. They are in the market, they understand what is there, what is not, and they give you inputs. Based on that, you can do certain research and make certain like the USP which the market is looking for. You can bring technology over it and bring a productization with respect to it. You can see the competition, like every competition has a lot of patents being filed. You can go for a competition benchmarking analysis to identify what kind of patents the competition is filing. So that becomes a benchmark for you, and you can start further inventing over it. You can always do any kind of other patent research. There are few which I will let you know in the next slides. There can be market research you can do to identify what kind of products people are looking for, what is the need, and then you can start thinking about it. Sometimes suppliers and vendors also suggest many things which becomes relevant for you to bring to the practice. Brainstorming sessions are also important. Like if you sit together, probably few solutions, few problems you can identify, and then they become the source of patenting. Another is circumvention. So like this is something I will let you know in next slides what circumvention is, but I just wanted to mention to you that circumvention is one of the way through which you try to circumvent the patent claims of a competitor. So while circumventing the claim, you may move towards another invention. So let me tell you how circumvention works with one example. So I'm taking an example of magazines. Like there were magazines you would have seen, like PC Quest, etc. PC Quest, etc., in which the CD used to be stuck between the cover and the body of the magazine, and you plug it out, and you can. So it is also having a cover in which the CD is placed, and you can use the CD further. But many times it happens while plugging it out, you can tear off some pages, and that is not a very good experience. So this patent is about that. Somebody filed a patent with respect to how smoothly you can place something, and how you can plug it out so that the magazine is not destroyed. So the claim was about a CD wrapper which is made of one single piece cutout. That was the first element. Then the second element is which is folded along a baseline to form an envelope. So one single page sheet was there, and then you are making an envelope out of it along a baseline too. Then further what you are doing is the envelope front three thus created projection beyond the envelope back, forming an overhang. So this is about how the overhang is formed. So this overhang is placed inside the magazine, okay, through which you have to tear the CD cover off. The closing flap 8 create a binding margin. So there has been an extended margin which is not shown in the diagram, which is made, which can be through which you can close the cover also. So everything is made out of a single sheet. So how it is easier to circumvent it, I will let you know in the next slide. So first thing is they have limited their claim by saying it is a single piece cutout. You need not make an envelope from a single piece. You can you can use two different pieces or two different pages or paper cutouts to join together to make an envelope. So simply by not using a single piece, but rather using two different papers, you can simply avoid it. Because you are not taking one single cutout, you are using two pieces, so you never require a folding to be done on the baseline. So with this, if you will see a simple thing, after looking into the claims, you can easily do a circumvention, and sometimes it can be a subject matter of patent also. So while you are circumventing, you can create a new patent for yourself. So in these ways, so this is something which is a loosely written patent claim. If I would have been the attorney, I would have avoided using any such language which will create unnecessary burden on the claim or unnecessarily limitation of the claim which can be easily avoided by any competitor, and they can use the same solution, almost same solution, by doing minor changes to your claims. So this is the way circumvention happens. And while we are working on the claims as a patent attorney, we look into this aspect that it should not make somebody to easily copy your subject matter by doing minor changes in the claims. In the first slide of the second part, I was talking about various kind of patent research. So one is done by patent attorneys is technology landscape. Whenever you are trying to do a research in a particular area, you want to know what people are doing. So there are multiple sources to identify such things. One is the patent sources, where a lot of patents are filed. There are a lot of journals also through which you can identify. So many times when the industry asks for, we also do the technology landscape to identify whether a particular area, technology area, you are looking to move into, whether it is active or it is dead. Second is also we try to identify, is it worthwhile to pursue that area, because if it is already dead, or there are a lot of competitors and it's very difficult to move into it, probably it's not worthwhile to go into any kind of technology landscape activity. Another is white space analysis, which is another form of technology landscape only. Here we try to check where could be the technology gaps possible. So some people have done few things and try to create a technology over it, but they have left out certain area for innovation. And like, of course, again, we can't do it alone. We have to be hand in hand with the researchers, the technology researchers, to come to the conclusion that there are certain gaps, technology gaps they have left out, which can be used for building up the further innovation. Competitor benchmarking, that is another activity where it is, so we identify specific competitors and try to take an insight of their technology or their patents which they have filed, how their technology is moving. So this will help us to identify even their progress in a technology area, and also like we can see whether we can match that speed or not, or what or other alternatives we can have to match them. So those kind of activities are done through competitor benchmarking. Another is state-of-art search, where a technical solution is, or rather a problem is focused on, like what problem we should be looking to solve for, and how that same problem is solved by other people through various patent application filing, providing various different technical solutions. So that will also be bring out a thought to check out like what all is already covered, or through what all technical solution has been provided. Probably as a technology researcher, you can identify, okay, their solution is subpar. There are further problems in their solution, and you can build over those solutions to create a to create a patent. Last but not least is the prior art search. So many times this is done at that stage of conceptualization, when you have conceptualized your idea and now you are thinking for whether I should file for a patent or not. At that time, this search is carried out, and the focus is to check out what are the new features. And also we should try to check out whether combining more than one document can we reach to the solution, your solution. If that is possible, then it may even move into the criteria of non-obviousness. Sorry, obviousness. That means it will affect the inventive step of the patent application which is to be filed. So before going to the next one, is there anything which I can answer?
Yes. Is anyone if wants to ask any question, then please. Sir, can I ask something?
Yeah, please.
Sir, can you explain a little bit more about the state of the art of searching? Because
Yes.
whenever we have to be defined something, and then how we have to be such this kind of the thing that it is present into the
So
patent functionality or not.
So my suggestion is we always have so state of art and prior art search are two things which are generally at the stage when you are already decided that this is something where you want to research on. So state of art is specifically focused on a problem. Like one problem, let me tell you, is like in the current time was social distancing. Like how a social distancing has to be maintained and what kind of solution, technical solution we can provide on the social distancing front, like in an organization when the office starts, so that people should not be within 6 meters to each other. How we can do the same thing, or how somebody have done the similar thing to maintain kind of a distance between people. So that become a subject matter to be searched for, and once you take that as a subject matter and start putting up certain keywords in a search interfaces, like Google Patents has one search interface, which is one of the very good one for any of the researchers. You can start putting those kind of problem statements, and maybe some solutions the tool will start showing to you, and you can start looking into like how every people have provided some solution and how we can tweak them. So there is a possibility we can tweak those solutions and a new invention can be created. But when it comes to prior art search, it's about exactly your solution. You have already devised the solution. Now you want to check out whether it is new or not.
So actually, sir, the thing is only that our students is to be also working on this place, and
Correct.
the one of the group is to be also make a particular IoT based devices, which has to be gives the alert whenever you have to be come closer to the another ones. So
Mhm.
this kind of the thing can be also working. That it means to say that we have to be put our device onto our shoulder or something place.
Correct. Correct.
So
Correct.
if someone is to be coming closer to you, then that will just generate an alert for you and the other people also.
Correct, correct, correct. So any
So
kind of such solutions could be relevant. So in this also, like this is letting know each other. Like there could be a beep sound when two people are coming close to each other. There can be other thing like already somebody has breached it. Like two people have come together, then there should be a database maintained so that later on it needs to be checked. Like if somebody is affected by COVID or any of the medicine, sorry, or any of the virus, would somebody else who have come in contact would be affected. So you would have to check through certain database which is maintained. So a database could be maintained for such aspect, like who have breached it. Sometimes it happens, the breach still happens. The beep would be there, but already the breach could have happened.
so one more thing, that can the design can also be patentable.
Designs. So actually for patent, the structural feature should provide certain technical advantage. So if your design has certain structure which is providing certain technical advantage, definitely it can become a subject matter of patent. If there is no technical advantage involved, but it's a new aesthetic design, while you look towards it, it looks something different, it has a beautification value, then it is not a patent, but you have to file an industrial design for that protection.
So, okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Please go ahead, sir.
So let's talk about what happens once patent is filed. So anyhow, before filing the patent, the first thing is you should go for a patent search if possible, and thereafter at least first step is to draft the patent specification, because this is the document on which the patent will be granted. This is the document which you are enforcing against any of the competitors. So it becomes very important. Okay, so the first thing before even filing is to draft the patent specification. Once that is ready, we complete all the forms and formalities and file before the patent office. Once the application is filed, the next step is application is published by the office within 18 months time. The exception is you can apply for early publication request, then the office will examine the application, publish the application probably in 1 month time itself, instead of waiting for 18 months. Sometimes it has a value when you have to show to somebody, see, we have filed so many patents, and you To prove it, they should be on the public portal. Then you would like to get it published earlier. Then thereafter, the next step is examination. The application has to be examined, and there is a possibility more than one examination report can be issued. But in Indian context, generally they issue only one examination report, which is first examination report. Typically, that is the scenario. Only in an extreme scenario, there can be second examination report also. Once the examination report is received based on multiple objections, we responded to it. The next step comes in, it will be put in the further scrutiny file, and once the whatever if we have responded for, it gets examined, the office issues a hearing notice so that everything could be completed faster. Instead of issuing another examination report, they with the further objection, they raise a hearing notice. And we go before the patent office and argue on each of the objections. Their office fees, they also counter argues. Based on this discussion, we have to prepare the final submission and file before the office. And based on this final submission, the office will take up the final decision to grant, or in some case even rejection. Like if all the objections are not met because of any reason, then the office have no option to reject it. Okay. After the grant of the patent application, the maintenance fees are due. There is a maintenance fee we have to pay every year. Another compliance which we have to do is we have to report on the commercialization of the patent, whether we have commercialized it or not. If we have not commercialized, why? If we have commercialized, how? So those kind of information has to be provided after the grant has happened. So this is general procedure. There is some tweaking of procedures throughout the patent offices of the world, but I've briefed you with respect to the Indian procedure. You can also file outside India based on the Indian application. So we are given 12 months time to decide over if we want to file into any other country based on the application which we have filed in India. So there are two routes. One is Paris Convention route. Another is Patent Cooperation Treaty route, the PCT route. So these are two international treaties signed by multiple countries of the world. Like for Paris Convention, around 175 countries are the members, and for PCT route, around 158 countries are the members. In Paris Convention, anyhow, you have to file within 12 months. In any other country, we have an interest. But PCT route is a bit different. It has two phases. One is international phase and one is national phase. The international phase is due within 12 months of filing the Indian application. And that has to be filed before a receiving office. Receiving office can be India or an international bureau, which is established in Geneva. And then the national phase, which is the second phase of the PCT application, is due from 31 months of filing the application in India. So like we can choose any of the route, whichever is fit for our business requirement. So what all other procedures are followed before Indian Patent Office? One is oppositions. So in India, there are two kinds of oppositions: the pre-grant oppositions, the post-grant oppositions. So any of the oppositions can be filed. So pre-grant oppositions start from the date of publication and up to the grant. Anytime anybody can go and oppose your application. Post-grant opposition starts after the grant of the application and is available for any third party for 1 year from the grant of the application. After that, any proceeding has to be taken only before the court. No proceeding for revoking the patent application can happen before the patent office. So many times when you license something to industry or some other party, you also have to file and register the licensing deed with the patent office. Otherwise, our patent cannot be enforced before any court in lack of the registration before the patent office. Same goes for assignment. If instead of licensing, you sell out your patent to somebody, then again the agreement needs to be executed and registered before the office. If we do not do so, again the enforcement of the patent can be in a problem. Next is infringement. Somebody infringes you and you go before the court pleading that he should be stopped from infringing and a damage should be provided to us. In counter, somebody against whom you are enforcing your patent, he can take up a defense saying that I am not infringing it, and he goes for a declaratory suit before the court saying that court should decide over put up a judgment saying that their patent do not infringe their product do not infringe the other party's patent. So invalidation proceedings can also happen, like even after the grant. If you want to revoke the patent, you can go to the court saying that this patent should not have been granted, and because of its grants, lots of issue is happening, lot of general problem to the public is happening, and his patent should not be granted on the grounds. So there are various grounds under the Patent Act. You can take up few as a lacuna and point it out, and can request for invalidating the patent. So this is about the other general procedures. If there is any question, then I can answer it. Otherwise, I can move for explaining you how the invention disclosure should be filled out.
If someone having any question, then please ask. Then Gaurav sir, can the software be also the patentable in India?
So software, we don't put it as a codes. Okay, if we focus on the functionality achieved through that software, then that could be a patentable subject matter. I will give you an example. In one of the examples in furtherance, there is about the use of software, how we can look towards it, how we should focus towards getting a patent grant over it. So definitely softwares as such, we can't get system of various hardware elements and how they work together by implementation of the software to achieve a particular functionality. Okay, so let me move to this part 4 if there are no other questions.
No, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. So first things comes up in the invention disclosure is the problem statement. That is, you have to define what problem you are trying to solve through your current invention. So it can be any kind of problem. Like, so of course, while defining the problem, you have to define the technology area also, because that is relevant when a patent attorney is drafting the patent application. So if it is automobiles, is part of any specific thing in automobile, you have to explain it so that the context is clear, first of all. Then thereafter you start introducing the problem. What is the specific problem you have seen in that specific technical area? Then this problem can be technical or non-technical. So like you can mention about the technical lacuna or non-technical lacuna. Even non-technical can be business, economical, social, anything like that. But of course you have to use technology to solve this problem, but problem can be non-technical also. So one example of problems is like social distancing, as I was mentioning. So this is a legal problem. So of course a social problem as of now, and which is required. Currently there was a requirement because of the current environment. You have to keep a social distancing, as well as there was a legal norm also that when an organization opens, it has to be maintained that two people always maintain a social distancing. So this problem is not a technical problem. Even cost reduction of a process or a product by certain means, those means are technical, but the problem is economical. We have to reduce the cost of something. So problem can be non-technical also, that I want to mention, but we have to elaborate the problem substantially, saying that what is the how the problem has come up in that technical area. Second question is background. So in this, we try to point out how this problem was previously solved. We can mention about the prior arts which are known to you. Of course, you need not always carry out a search, but many times while working over your invention, you would have done certain journal research, sometimes even patent research. You can point all of these prior arts, and prior arts can be research paper, patents, any known practice also you can mention that through your common understanding you have heard somewhere, like this is one of the way it has been done, or you have seen somewhere but there is no document to it. You can know, put them as general known practice. And in market, if you have seen anything, any product and processes, you can point them out also here. On any other company website you have seen something, you can point that out. Any online citation can work. Even you, something you have seen on YouTube, you can point out. So anything which is known to you which could have tried to solve the similar problem, you can mention them as a prior art. Also, if possible, if you point out the drawbacks of these prior art, that becomes very clear to somebody, and start thinking about your like what further problem you are solving. So any drawbacks of these prior arts may be a further solution to you. So you can mention about these drawbacks also. The third question is, what are the specific new elements in your invention? You will point out what are the new things in your invention. So it can be, we are talking about a process, it can be any new step added, or a step which you have removed or omitted. So that can be something new. Any process parameters change, that can be put across, like previously up to 150 to 200 degree something has been done, but now you are doing it at 300 to 350 degrees, and that will have changed the final end product. That would have made the process more efficient. You can like there can be multiple reasons, multiple advantage to whatever new thing which you have created. So in a product, it can be new element added, some element removed or replaced. Even minor things can be subject matter of patent. In a system, it can be addition or deletion of an entity to make the process efficient. That is also something which you can point out as a novel element. I've already mentioned about improvements. So in metal filament bulb example, tungsten was something which is completely a new thing which has been put across. So that also can be a new subject matter, novel element. Question 4 is about the ways the invention was reached. So I'm mentioning it inventive steps, but it's not the same we have discussed as the criteria, but it's more about how the invention was reached. So this is more about how these novel elements works together with other elements of the system or process to bring out the solution. So that as you have to mention. If there are any manufacturing steps of a product, you have to mention that. Any steps for using a product, you can mention that. So all these kind of things in detail determines the inventive step for the invention, how the invention has been achieved or reached. If we can determine how everything works together to function, that becomes a subject matter of implementation of the invention. So that is also very important to be mentioned, because otherwise it will become insufficient disclosure, and the office may say that somebody has to do a lot of undue experimentation to reach the invention, and it doesn't suffice the purpose of the invention. So last question is about any alternative ways to achieve the novelty. So sometimes what happens, like you have one place where you have to reach, and there are 4 ways to reach that. Okay, in previous answers, you have mentioned about only one way to reach, but you may be knowing another two ways to reach to the same solution. Then it's better to mention about them also, and the patent attorney would see that how he can combine each of them in the invention in the patent application, so that nobody can bypass your patent application. Either they have to take a license or they will be called an infringer. Even you can mention about slight variations like version 1, 2, 3, 4, like that. Any additional elements can also be mentioned. So I will give mention about them in one easy example in furtherance. So this example is about like, let's go again to Stone Age, when you don't have the furnitures at home, and for like generally people used to sit on the ground most of the time. So we are talking about that era when the comfortable sitting was not even available. So the problem was like when you are sitting on the ground, it's not that easy. It is not ergonomic. You can't sit for long hour, otherwise your back would start aching. So these are all generally the problems you would be focusing while you are mentioning about a solution with respect to comfortable sitting. When you are identifying, when you are researching, you have identified that certain times when the tree was cut, there was some part of the trunk left, and you can sit over it and rest. But that is something only solving a bit of the problem, but it's not a complete solution. Still, it's not ergonomic. For long sitting, definitely it's not comforting, and definitely it will still lead to backache if you are sitting for a long period. So what is the novel element? So something like this. So this looks like a old time chair, but something like this could be a solution where a backrest is provided, which is carved out from the same wood. You have taken a bigger trunk of the tree, you have carved out a backrest from it, and it becomes like now you are able to easily sit over it for long hours without hurting your back. Even it will be more ergonomic with respect to just sitting on the log of the wood. So what are the inventive steps? So you would have a complete methodology how you will carve out the carve out the wood and make a backrest. So there would be one by one step you will disclose in it. What could be the alternate embodiments here? So one with slight variation could be, instead of carving out, you can take another piece of wood and stick it to the log and make a backrest. So it's not carving out, but attaching another piece. Additional element could be like you can provide kind of a chair kind of a structure where some part of the base has been carved out, because you don't require the complete material there, and that specific material can be used for some other purpose and make it more economical. So this becomes an additional element. So this is one example. Now I will take you to some real life examples from my patent applications, which has been drafted in past. So this is a 2013 application, very long back. I had worked out. So this was about a portable device which is used for automobile cleaning. So like you want to clean your vehicle, but like you are going in some place and it's full of dust, and in midway you want to clean it, so that like maybe you are going for a marriage and it's a long drive you have to do, but it's totally dusty road, and you don't want to go with a car which is dirty to the marriage hall. So you want it to be cleaned out in between. So the device is very useful for it because it becomes portable. So conventionally, what we know is We know about so the technology is here compact and portable automobile cleaning device. So we want to make it still portable because we want to carry it along with us. Otherwise, you can't clean it on the road. So what we have seen in past is the previous traditional known mechanisms are not user friendly. You can just take a pipe of water, plug it to the tap, and clean it with it. It will waste a lot of water. You can't carry it, and it's not a very friendly washing. Again, you have to carry around that pipe from one side to other side, and even the pipe is not even long enough to carry it on the other side. So probably you can't even take the nozzle of the pipe to the other side. So a lot of problem could be in the traditional way of washing it. So how this problem could have been solved? So there are certain examples. A lot of US applications has been filed for cleaning mechanism, but they were still not portable. They were still wasting a lot of water resources, and still the cleaning were not coming out to be very good. So these are two examples of the prior art which you can provide. Just mention about those as a prior art, and they can be put up in the patent application for examiner to look into what is already known. So that is question number 2. So what are the specific novel elements of the invention? So now we are talking about the solution, the end solution. So this was the device which was conceptualized by the inventor. So it has a cleaning phase. It's completely portable. You can easily carry out. It has a cleaning phase, which is provided at the bottom base, and then there is a steam generation unit which will be generating the steam, which is provided here, and there is a cleaning agent which can be filled out and like cleaning agent here can be cleaning water or surf or any kind of cleaning agent which can be used along with the steam to have a proper cleaning. So here you will see, because we are cleaning mostly through the steam, the use of water would be minimal, and because of the cleaning agent, cleaning would be done very effectively, and it is taken as one whole device and easily handleable. It's very portable and user friendly. So this is about, we are describing about the whole subject matter, how the whole device looks and what are the new things in the device. Now let's talk about as an inventive step. When the inventor would have disclosed, he would have disclosed the whole device. And what is more important is with respect to these 3 elements disclosed, first they would have mentioned about that this is a cleaning device which would be cleaning for various surfaces of the automobile. So first thing is cleaning surface they have mentioned, because this cleaning surface would be helpful to brush out the surface of the automobile. Then housing has been mentioned, which has a cavity, because through this cavity the cleaning agent and the steam would move. So it is very important to mention about this cavity, because this is the most important cavity here, and this cavity has some link with the cleaning phase. How it will be linked? First is steam generation unit. Once the steam is generated, it will be taken to the cleaning phase. And how it will be done? Through this cavity of the housing. Through this cavity, the steam will move, and there would be a permeability on the surface from the cavity side, so that the steam can move to the surface of the cleaning phase. And finally, the cleaning agent unit will also pass through this cavity only, and it will be also permeable to reach to the cleaning phase. So when you have a steam, you have cleaning agent reaching to the face in an easy way, you can just scrub it off, brush it off on the vehicle, and the vehicle would be clean, because now you have hot steam as well as the cleaning agent. Both will function very good with the minimal resources to clean the surface. So that is how they have defined the inventive step, or rather they have defined it as a machine, we have put it as a claim. So this is the elaboration of the claim. But this I am presenting to you before, like this is the way we present to the office. These many elements would be required to be mentioned to have a to give a complete clarity to the examiner, like how the total thing will work. So in addition, is there any other way to be implemented? That is the last question to be answered. Instead of any other way, the inventor has provided certain other embodiment. One is they have mentioned about you can have a brush-like structure on the cleaning face, so that once this brush-like structure is being used for cleaning the surface of the vehicle, it will provide more effect. There could be a utility to store the cleaning agent. So there, initially we have not mentioned whether the cleaning agent would be supplied from some external resources, or there is a cavity inside, or there is some place inside where you can place the cleaning agent. So both the embodiments the inventor want to cover, like something which can be provided from outside and plugged in into the cavity, or something which can be put inside the device itself as a storage. Same way for water, because steam has to be generated from water. There are two ways again, supplied from outside, or you have the storage inside for water, from where it can be heated and the steams can be generated and taken to the cleaning surface. Beyond that, sometimes you may require even the water to be dispensed to have a effective cleaning. So a utility can be provided to even dispense the water, and that's so with the pressure to provide more impactful cleaning. So this is how this invention could have been mentioned or elaborated in the invention disclosure. Now let me take you to the second example. This was drafted in 2017 for, it's a computer subject matter. This is about embedding of the contents, embedding of action items in the contents to make those contents interactive. So what was the problem here? The inventor was trying to solve is whenever contents are posted online, generally it's very difficult to interact with the content. Mostly the interaction could be you can comment over the content, and your comment would be placed side by side with the content. That is the maximum way you can interact. So that was something which was known, but definitely it's not effective. And in case if you want to know anything about any of the subject matter or a product or item provided in the content, you have to go again, search on Google on a separate tab or separate window, and that is the only way you can know about the some subject matter which is shown in the video, or text which has been shown on a social media application. So this invention is about a social media application where the contents we see have been placed, and while like on Facebook also, if you have seen, you have no way to interact with the content. You can maximum comment over that, nothing more than that. So even once you are seeing something there, if you want to know anything about it, you will go on open a separate tab, you will type something in that tab, and then you will come to know. And what becomes the problem is your experience hurts. So that's what it has been mentioned in the whether the problem has been solved before. Yes, you can solve the problem by opening multiple tabs, 5-10 tabs, and each time interrupting your viewing and seeing about each of the product. So the whole experience goes for a waste with it. Your viewing experience is interrupted, and at the same time you have to go through multiple windows to identify the information about various things. So this solution was to solve the problem with respect to it. So what are the new elements in it? So generally what the inventor did, he put up certain action items on each frame. Like if it is a video, so a video would be having multiple frames, like each frame of the video or a group of frame of the video would be embedded with the action item. So that was the new subject matter which was provided by the inventor. and thereafter embedding, you have to make it clickable. Once you make it clickable, probably it will open as a small window on the side. You, if you want to see right away, you can see, or you can keep on viewing your video, and then whatever is open, you can see in due course. So that was the novel element, and how they have implemented it. So they have defined it as a client server architecture, uh, on which the contents which are to be embedded has been further processed for. So there has been a mechanism given where processor would take the, like, processor would receive the contents and the action item would be again provided through some certain input device, and once both the subject matter is received, the content which has to be embedded, which has to be embedded, and the action items, then both are integrated by the processor in a layered fashion, and an integrated view is generated, and then this is further stored in the on the server, and whenever it is required, the, like, it will be fetched on the user screen, and user screen can click it and go to whatever. Go to the next step. Either it could be about viewing viewing more information about that product, or buying of the product. Maybe side by side, a window on Amazon would open, which would through which you can buy also the same product. So it makes the whole user experience very good. You don't have to mark that point, rather you just click on any of the interactive element, and you can see it later on if you want to buy it, or read more information. But at the same time, your video is not stopped. You still keep on viewing the video, or still keep on hearing audio or anything like that, which has been currently displayed or rendered on the machine of where the user has been logged in. So this is about the inventive step, how it should be done. What are the alternate embodiments? One could be like how you would be providing that micro application after clicking. It could be on a like on a your current computer screen can be divided into two parts. On one part, you can keep on viewing the viewing the video or whatever is running, and on the other one, the micro application would be placed regarding the information. If you want, you can currently stop the video or the content and go and read about the subject matter, or let it be remain open. You still keep on viewing the video, and let the subject matter in the micro application be placed like that. Or you can open a smaller window, a window in window kind of scenario. A smaller window is open where the subject matter is given. You can anytime make the window bigger, or just keep it like that. So these could be one of the extra elements. And another, how you will know whether some some content would be having an action item. There could be some kind of a indicator which will blink or something whenever there is on a screen there is some subject matter which would be having a content embedded. So in that way, if we provide all those alternatives, that can also becomes the part of the patent application, because finally they have an additional utility with respect to the problem you are trying to solve. So these are the two examples I have to provide. Now, if anybody has any question, I can answer it.
Yes, if anybody wants to ask some question, then please ask it out. Hello? Hello? Anyone wants to ask some questions? Then Gaurav sir, can I ask one more question, please?
Please.
Sir, actually, in case of the Indian functionalities of the patent system, that it has to be taken much more time for the patents. But in case of the foreign functionalities, that they have to be taken less time as compared to the Indian peoples. And to the same time, we do not know this kind of the things, that the how our idea is secure in the patent office. What do you say about that?
So let me tell you about it. So first, on the security side, so let me tell you, till the time the application is not published, very few people have access to it. First thing, okay. in the patent office. Second aspect, which is important to be mentioned here, is like the date of filing you have received from the office will become a priority date for you, and if anybody tries to do anything after that, will still possibly infringe your patent. Of course, till the time you do not have a grant, you can't enforce against them, but whatever they want to do thereafter, once the filing is done, they they can't harm your patent. Okay. Another aspect which you have asked me about is whether in India it takes a lot of time to get a patent with respect to US. So let me tell you, in US also, the minimum time frame to get a patent granted is generally 2.5 years, and sometimes it can even go to 4.5 years also. In India, we have improved a lot in last 3-4 years. Now you can expect a patent to be granted even in 2.5-3 years. So there are certain modalities by which you have to go. Like if you are filing in name of the college, you can't expedite your patent application, but what you can do is you can file for early publication. So if you file for early publication, your application need not wait for 18 months to move into the examination pile. They will be placed in the examination pile within 1 month. So directly you are saving 18 months there. Anyhow, if you are eligible, like if you are filing as an individual or as an entity which are eligible to be expedited, you can expect the patent to be granted in India in 1.5 years, quarter to 2 years time.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
So anybody else which wants to ask some questions? I think nobody is here, so may I conclude, sir?
Yeah, please.
So only on to this particular places that I want to say something about the Gaurav sir, that they have to be guide us onto the very good topics, that is why we have to make the patents, that what are the inventive steps of the patents, the cross licensing, patent searches, technology landscapes, white space analysis, competitor benchmarking, state of art searches, the multi-country filings, the innovation disclosures, and the different kinds of the examples is to be also included on this places. So this is a very good knowledgeable session that has to be delivered by Gaurav sir. So only on to this place that I am here to give the very heartily congratulations or very heartily welcome for this particular place, that they have to be deliver the very good examples and the very good topics in front of us. So very thankful to you, sir. And I just again request to you that you have to give some more session to us.
No worries. So no worries. It was nice to have session from you, Dr. Nilash. I was really happy to give the session, and I would be more happy to give more sessions to whoever is needing at the college, so that they know more about it, and then they can do more innovations, so that we can help them to protect them as a patent in further.
Sir, as we are just going to close our basically third and fourth semester, so that we have to be planned this next session in the approximately in the February last of the month or in the starting of the March.
Sure.
February last or the starting of the March. So it will be helpful for the students also.
Perfect. You can let me know, and definitely I will make myself available.
Okay. So on the behalf of the MIT Moradabad and from the side of the director sir and the head of the innovation cell, Dr. Kshitij Singhal, I am very much thankful to Dr. Gaurav Singhal. I just pay very sincere thanks to Gaurav Singhal sir for delivering the very nice sessions onto the patents also. So thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you all.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.